Coming to you live from Abuja, and that's where the World Economy Forum for Africa holds this week. And we're joined now to talk about that by Yemi Babington-Ashaye, who is the Director, Global Shapers Community. Thank you for coming on this morning, Yemi.
Thank you for having me.
Well, yes, indeed, at this time, a lot of decisions will be taken. So many things will be done at the same time. But young people, first of all, give us this background. Global Shapers Community. What is it about?
Okay. The Global Shapers Community is a global network of local communities. These local communities are based usually in cities, and they are composed of young people in their 20s when they join. These young people, some of them are CEOs, teachers, doctors, police officers, very diverse. But what makes it unique is we ask them to work together to do something locally. Please bear in mind, many of them already own their own foundations. But this is not about looking for brilliant young people. It's about people working together to do something locally. Today, we have 330 hubs in more than 155 countries around the world. In Africa, we have one in every single African country. And this week, 50 of these global shapers, that's what we call the young people, will be joining the World Economic Forum on
50.
Africa. 50 of them.
Are you pulling them from African countries or
Yes.
from around the world?
Yes, from over 30 different African countries. So we have from Angola, from Bissau, from Senegal, of course, from Mauritius. They come all over from Africa to join this meeting. Because part of why we exist is to give young people a seat at the table anywhere the agenda is being shaped. We see young people as a part of the solution to challenges that societies face. Very often when you hear the discourse on young people, it's about how do we educate them? How do we clothe them? How do we feed them? How do we find them jobs? Them, they're the problem. But we see them as part of the solution. Because very often when we are solving this problem, we don't have them at the table. Stunning examples. So the way we work, they organize themselves. They are independent. Each hub has its own logo. They have their own partners. They choose what they do. They choose their own members. It's capped at 50 in each hub because we want intimacy. And then they choose their own projects. Every single hub, it's not a talk shop, has to do at least one project a year.
But they have what? You have a unifying guiding principle?
Yes, we do. It's about local impact, self-organizing for local impact. So they're doing projects they're passionate about education. They're doing projects with high schools, mentoring, getting people a break. We have a hub in Abuja that's doing a project on employability. Because very often, it's not about being brilliant to get a job. It's about knowing how to put your tie on. It's about knowing the meaning of time. If they say show up at 8 o'clock, people show up for the interview at 8:30 and they wonder why they didn't get the job. It's about knowing how to pitch your idea. So they're doing something on employability. The hub in Lagos is really passionate about entrepreneurship, and they do entrepreneurship workshops where you come in, they help you package your idea and you go. And they just had a success story a couple of weeks ago where somebody came in with an idea about how to sell akara. And this person, they helped them put together a budget, a pitch. They needed the 700,000 naira to launch their business. They went to one of these things and they got 1 million naira. And this is after participating in the workshop. And people said the pitch was brilliant. People wanted to eat the akara even after, before he started the business. But the hub in Bamako in Mali, they are building public Wi-Fi hotspots in disadvantaged neighborhoods in their city for free. So they can't give out laptops, but if you have a smartphone or your own computer and you live in one of these areas, you don't need to go downtown. Access. Information is power. And so they're doing loads of things.
Are they doing this in conjunction with governments in the country or independently as the hub in that particular country?
Good. That's a great question. Because just as we believe young people must be included, we can't go without young people. Young people should also not go alone. And very often, since each hub is independent, they learn this as they go along. So we advise them they have to work with local stakeholders. One of the things we do to force them to do this is we don't give them money. If you have a brilliant idea that solves a problem, well, finance it. If you can't find local stakeholders who are going to put skin in the game, maybe it's not that brilliant of an idea. There are caveats, but all of these projects I told you about, Bamako's free Wi-Fi hotspots, they financed it in Mali. We don't have members in Mali. They found their own. This is in Mali, not in Nigeria. Now, an example closer to home is the Kano Hub is doing a project trying to preserve the old city walls. Most people don't even remember the city walls in Kano. And they started the project on their own. And they started last year. Unfortunately, when the rains came, because basically they're rebuilding the city walls and in the old style, the rains came and washed their efforts away. But this is the trouble with working alone. Because when they worked alone, they used limited resources. But it's such a beautiful idea to conserve our own history. So they've spoken to a few executives about this. People have pledged support. And now I know the second time around it's going to be stronger because they're working with other people, not alone. So we encourage them to work with people.
So at this World Economic Forum, I mean, how would you assess the impact of the community? I mean, in the previous summits that they've attended.
Okay, good question as well. This is the third time that they come to the World Economic Forum on Africa. The very first time was in 2012 when we were in Ethiopia. Last year was second, this is the third time. They're in demand. We have heads of states, ministers, big CEOs who come in. They cancel everything in their schedule. They want to meet with the Shapers. And the reasons are, I think they're multifaceted. One of them is these young people are independent. They're not looking for a government contract. They are not working for any business leader. A lot of them are independent. So they can speak truth to power. We had one of them ask presidents, why are you all still in power? Which one of you is handing over next? Now, what normal delegate will ask that question? Very difficult. So they can speak truth to power. At the same time, they are doing things differently. If you're a business leader and you have a food factory, if young people have a different way to get the food to market and you don't pay attention, your business will be obsolete. So very often they come in with disruptive ideas about exactly how to do what the old generation is doing, and they're doing it anyway. So if you don't listen to them...
Is there anyone that has been listened to, implemented with success?
What do you mean by listen to?
Because in terms of maybe they come up with a proposal of how a policy should be, and then the government in question, maybe they recommend to a particular sector, they say, okay, well, let's implement this idea. And they see that it works.
There are quite a few, although now you put me on the spot to try and find you one. I know that in Cape Town, for example, one of the things the Cape Town Hub is doing is they're advising the government on its SME policy, and the government is listening. The government has actually asked them to please continue what they're doing. They started this project because very often when we make policy for business, we consult people on the stock exchange. We consult big business. It's rare that we spend time listening to small and medium enterprises. So what these shapers are doing in Cape Town is they're going through their city, collecting ideas for how the policy can be changed to support small and medium enterprises, and government is listening. Government has asked the shapers to do the same thing in Durban. I'm sure in a few minutes I'll remember more examples for you.
And I'm sure that most of your members are still in school, because you said some of them are in their 20s.
Yes, you're right.
And what form of impact does that also help in the education sector when we talk about global shapers? Okay,
it's a great question. Now in the 20s, that's the busiest time because you're finishing your education or strengthening your education. You're starting your career. Many people get their first jobs in their 20s. In some cases, you're starting a family as well. So these people are superheroes to me because in all of that, they're taking time out to try and do something together. Education, maybe that's why education is one of the themes that they're all doing. Different hubs, for example, the hub in Addis Ababa, they started a project called Inspire. They go to high schools, encourage young people to stay in school. Just very simple. And these young people, they listen to role models. In Ethiopia, the role models are track athletes. Very often these track athletes did not finish school. So they bring them over, and these young people listen. And the track athletes say, listen, please, go to university. And I have an email in my inbox, which I received almost 2 years ago, where a young lady wrote to the hub saying, thank you for coming to my school. You came in May. She sent this in August. Next week, I'm going to medical school. My plan was to finish high school and just join my family business. But because you came, now I go to medical school. Yeah. There are many projects like this. The hub in Johannesburg is doing something called Sparks, where they allow younger people to shadow them for a week or for a month. The hub in Lagos has gone to primary schools. Because very often, when we talk about young people at the table, think about a school. A school is about students. The decisions very often at the school exclude students. Very often. It's very difficult to include, that you see a school that includes students in student government, which is stunning.